right, let's get down to business. I haven't been feeling well, so I haven't really wanted to make a video. So that's why I'm kind of late. Like, I've been trying to do it weekly. I don't know if that's going to work. I'm having a lot of allergy issues. I don't know if you can tell by my voice. But if you guys seen all of the Christmas movie videos I did in the 12 days of Christmas movies, y'all know what I sound like when I've got allergy issues, so bear with me. Today, I would like to discuss Little Nightmares. Now, Little Nightmares is a game that I love so much. I didn't get to finish the first one. I've literally seen all of the first one be played by somebody else, and I've seen the second one be played by somebody else. I used to see those games, because I think a long time ago it was just on the PC, so I really didn't care about it. When it came to the console, I really didn't care to play it because I already knew what happened. But I keep dying. So I literally keep falling off of platforms. I don't die from getting caught or anything. I get killed because I keep falling off of platforms and from high ground, for some reason. But now that Little Nightmares 2 has come out, a lot of people are confused, speculating, and very excited about what's to come in the future. And I would like to discuss that. So before we get into Little Nightmares 2, let's have a brief synopsis of Little Nightmares 1. So there's this little girl named Six in a yellow raincoat. She arrives, I do believe, if I'm remembering correctly, she arrives in a suitcase on this moving vessel called the Maw. The Maw looks like somebody's face, and it kind of looks like it's Korean or some sort of Asian-based situation, especially the main antagonist, the lady. She looks very geisha-like. She looks very elegant and graceful, very amazing. So, before we get into her, Six wakes up, and she's like, okay. So she's walking around and stuff, and there's these little mushroom people around, and strange. And then all of a sudden, while she's walking around, she gets hungry. Then there's this kid on the Maw. Oh, I forgot to tell you that I do believe she gets caught at first, and then by this janitor dude, and then gets put into a cage. I don't know which one comes first. I'm pretty sure that's next. And there's kids everywhere around her. Then there's this boy that gets grabbed, and she's just sitting in the cage. She knocks it down and breaks free and goes looking around. And she makes no effort to save any of these kids, by the way. So we're already starting this way. So the people who are mad at Six for what she did in Little Nightmares 2, they need to just shut up, honestly, because we already knew how Six was. And I love how they like to swing the B word anytime a woman or a girl, in this instance, because she's a little girl, has any flavor to their personality. If they're not peachy fine, and even when they're peachy fine and weak and useless like Sakura in Naruto, they still get hate, and I hate her too. But it's how can the same people hate someone so bland? That's what they want out of a woman. They want weakness. They want always devoted to men. They want always devoted to everybody else but themselves. They want someone who will risk their life and limb. They want simps. They really want simps. So when a girl or a woman is no longer into the simp category, and they're actually their own person, and they actually do things that are in their best interest, regardless of if they're a villain or not, they still have to make it seem like, oh, I can't believe she did be mad. Okay, be mad. So let's get back to what I was talking about. So Six is exploring the Maw, and I do believe the first person she runs into is the janitor. I can't remember if I said his name, but he's a janitor. He's got long arms, and I'll explain why he has long arms later. She goes through, and eventually his arms are chopped off. Spoiler. So she goes to the next part, which is the twins. Then it's the chef place. And if you notice certain things, I'm also going to be talking about theories that I have and believe about this whole situation. But let me talk about this. I'm also going to talk about the prequel. So the chefs are like, they're all, notice how they're all wearing masks. I really don't know. I don't see the janitor wearing any mask. I really don't know if he's wearing a mask or not, but you can clearly see the chefs are wearing masks. Their faces look different underneath it. If you see them scratching at their face, if you look it up, their face looks completely different than the outside. So she goes through there, she jumps up, and then she sees the lady. I forgot if there was another thing, but the whole time Six is going around, she's like getting hungrier, and she eventually eats a rat. She like levels up to a rat, and then she eats a gnome, which is, spoiler, a child. They're all children. All the mushrooms, all the ladies turning all the children that escape that first part with the janitor into mushrooms for unknown reason. You'd think that if they were being eaten, if the children were the ones that were being eaten, they wouldn't have their own cafeteria. They wouldn't have a guy protecting them, because I don't think the janitor kills you. I think when you grab, the chefs will eat you. If you, I think when they grab you, I think they eat you. But, the janitor wants to keep you in cage. He keeps them all in a cage. The ones that escape. There was one just alone, and I don't know, we never get to see who that person is. But they throw Six's sausage in the beginning. One of my hypotheses has to do with the end, when Six kills the lady with a mirror. She eats her as well. And then she can siphon the life out of every person on board. If you notice, I'm not really going to talk much about the prequel, because the prequel, I haven't seen much playthrough for it. I just know a few things, like supposedly the long man and the teacher are from there. The pretender's parents, or the pretender's guardians. Why would they be in a picture if they were guardians? I think they're clearly her parents. But that's not a theory that I'm willing to get behind. What I am willing to get behind is all the children have numerical names. And as we start talking about 2, so 2 is Mono. He busts the door open, basically, and finds 6 before she had her raincoat. So in the prequel, that they said was a prequel to the Nightmares, 6 gets the coat from a little girl that falls to her death because the pretender was chasing her. The pretender is a character that can touch you and you disappear out of your clothes. So that's interesting. She pretends to be, I don't know, I guess she's called the pretender. My hypothesis for that is she just pretends to like run things, and I don't think she runs the whole thing. I think whoever is the mom, which I do believe was the teacher, she is the true head of household. She's just acting like that, and that's why she's called the pretender. And she also is playing with dolls and pretending to feed them. The butler just got long limbs, and he's got his arms clashed to his back, like with a keyhole clearly visible. He doesn't play much of a role. I don't think he's anyone important. He's just the butler. But going back to 2, so Mono and 6 get chased by the hunter, who was supposedly, I don't know why he was keeping her there so long. This is where my big theory that I want to talk about, other than the first theory I was talking about, their names, because I'll have more evidence for that at the end. So the hunter's fake family is alive, and only don't move because the light is shining on them. If you notice, the family that's sitting at the table with the boy with his eye puffed out, they are sitting next to a light. Later on in Little Nightmares 2, you have to use a light to stop the mannequins from moving towards you and killing you. And I don't see why we would have I know if it was dark, it would be harder for us to actually see the creepiness of it, but that's kind of eerie to have it dark, but they chose to keep the light on, and it's only right there. So I think that the light is keeping them stationary. And for the grandmother, because she's upstairs and there's no light on her, but the moonlight is on her. The moonlight is on her, and I do believe that the moonlight serves the exact same purpose. I think the reason why she doesn't get up and move is because she is in the moonlight. And or because when Mono takes the crank from her and her arm breaks off, I think in order for them to move, for them to function, they don't have to be completed, but their parts have to be put together a certain way. I don't know. That comes a little bit later when they meet the doctor, because the doctor's the one that's making these mannequin things. They shoot the hunter together with his gun that's stuck up in there. And I think that my next theory would be relating to each of the enemies in this game. So the hunter looks like he's got a hole in his eye, or a hole where his bag is that covers his face. And I do believe that every single enemy that we encounter, due to the time loop, are the way they are because of what happens, which is strange to say, So what I'm saying is he got that hole in his head because they shot him already in the past, but it's happening now. And the teacher has a long neck because at the end of their encounter, she chases them through the air ducts, and her neck gets extremely longer than we've ever seen her be able to maneuver it. She could have gotten stuck there, maybe. I haven't watched the Little Nightmares 2 enough, because I haven't played it, but I played the first one to know which one comes first. But I'm pretty sure that we're introduced to the teacher before we see the doctor. So I'm going to talk about the teacher in that part where 6 is taken away. I think they took 6 away rather than killing her, because that's what they did before. I don't think they know how to kill, even though when you get caught by them, they kill you. I think what they really do, like instead of the game over, because we're playing a game, like if we were able to just get caught, and who knows what happens after that. Like, we don't see blood or anything, but what I'm saying is, I think if we were able to follow Mono, if after he got caught, they would have tied him to something or did something, which brings me to my next theory, having to do with the chest room. I think it's inside the school. There was people assumed that it was a doll tied to one of the chess pieces, but in reality, it's not one of the dolls, because the doll's eyes don't close, and the kid's eyes on the chess piece is shut. So I think he died, and he was stuck there because they can't kill anything like kids, because they're just small. I think they tie them up. I don't think the teacher did that. I really don't think the teacher tied anybody up, because she's seen beating a kid, and it wasn't a porcelain doll, because the porcelain dolls would have broken because they break with Mono, and she's way stronger than Mono. And I saw her switch she got hands. So whoever she's beating is a person, and perhaps it could, I don't know who we see first. Again, I haven't watched it enough times to know. But if she was beating someone, she could have very well killed him. And maybe he's the one that we see in the chest room connected to the chess piece. The one that she was beating on. So after the teacher, we see the doctor, who we eventually learn that he's been making all the faces that we've seen in Little Nightmares and Little Very Little Nightmares. I don't know what the prequel's called. It's just something else. It looks like a DS game, honestly. I hate when people be like, okay, let's like Kingdom Hearts style. Let's just make everything on every console and see what sticks. Like, make it on PlayStation, make it on Xbox. PC will make it for themselves. They've got mods. They've got everything we can't do on a console. So they'll be fine. You don't have to make it for PC. Make it for us and call it a day. They'll make their own rendition that looks 10 times better than y'all's, even though y'all have way more money than the average PC player. They'll make it better than you. There's no reason to have everything on a Switch, on a Wii, on a GameCube. Like, we don't need all that. Just put it on the consoles. And if you really want to, put it on PC. But honestly, I feel like that's a lot. If you guys aren't going to hire the people who make better mods than y'all do regular games, then maybe you shouldn't make it on PC because you're not equipped for it. Just make it for a console when no one's going to do anything crazy. And even people, I don't know if they're doing it on PC. I'm pretty sure they are doing this free range mode where they can look around and see what the developers didn't want us to see. I personally like it for zooming into like pictures and stuff, but it kind of ruins the ominousness of things because they don't animate or they don't like put anything there. So I saw that somebody was looking down to see what or who the teacher was beating, and there was nothing. And I'm like, of course, because they didn't expect you to see it. They just wanted you to see it. Just like the lunch lady. I'm pretty sure if you zoom where the lunch lady is, she doesn't have a head because you only see the body. Maybe they made a head. Maybe they animated a head. But the DLCs kind of explain a few things relating to the game. But I'm not going to get into that. I haven't watched many playthroughs of the DLC or Very Little Nightmares. I just know what happens. And so after the doctor and they deal with all that crap, they burn him. People said that there was ash falling from him. So I also believe that because they burn him, incinerate him in the, I guess where you put dead bodies, I think he still is ashy from that. So in Little Nightmares 2, we're introduced to the signal tower, which is obstructing people's growth and making them into these long, langular creatures. That's why the janitor from the first one was real long, and that's why the chefs, the twins, had distorted faces because of the signal tower that's sending out a signal, which my hypothesis is Mono is sending out a signal, but he can't get it because he doesn't know anything else. He was in there since he was a child. So he just knows what he knows, and what he knows is actually turning people into these monsters because all he knew were monsters. It's a conundrum. It's like a whole plot. It's like a whole vortex of issues. But I digress. And then the Thin Man comes by after Mono opens the door that he's been. It's like through the whole game, Mono is trying to get through this door, and he opens it, and then the Thin Man comes out, and then they have a new enemy. He takes Six, the one that we've known, the one that we've gotten to know this whole time from one, even in the Little Nightmares, Very Little Nightmares prequel. We've known Six, and Six is supposedly the one that we're supposed to care about more. Hello. So she gets taken, and then he goes in through the door, and he's like, wow, everything's crazy, topsy-turvy. I would consider this place purgatory. I would personally call it purgatory or limbo. So he finds Six, and turns out she's like morphed and warped, and her fingers are long and her body's contorted, kind of long arms like the janitor, which that's what I was talking about. So the signal tower, the signal alters people's limbs and stuff. So the janitor in the very first Little Nightmares game, he's distracted by turning on a TV. And that's ironic because the TV is what's distorting him. So Mono has to mimic what he did to save her in the first place, which was bust open the door. And the music box she had in there from the beginning of 2 has turned into this ominous, creepy thing that he has to bust open. And the more you bust it open, the more 6 is upset at you. And then finally, Mono breaks it, and then 6 is back to normal. They share a glance for a while. It just makes it seem like she's upset that he did that. So they have to escape. The mass of flesh is just a bunch of eyes and flesh. It's disgusting. And this is where people talk about the issue. 6 is faster, so she runs ahead. And Mono he jumps and he grabs her. And they look at each other. And then this is the first time that 6 is seeing him without his anything on his head, covering his face. So she's finally looking at him. Something had to happen while she was in the signal tower. She probably blames him for her being in that situation in the first place. But me personally, if you get someone out of something that you've already been, that you put them into, it's kind of like it cancels itself out. Depends on the intent. Like if you set a fire and then you put it out, it's just like what you want, a cookie. At best, you get nothing. So that's why I think 6 should have done nothing, but she let him go and she went through the thing. And I don't think before she went through, like, she was having hunger pains. I don't think she felt like she was scared she was going to eat Mono. I think she would have eaten Mono. I think that she just is upset at him for not saving her when the Thin Man came by and grabbed her and like killed herself in the real world and brought her to purgatory. So let's talk about the ending. People are talking about, oh, I can't believe 6 did that and the other. If you're following the story, you knew that was going to happen. I was not surprised when she dropped him. I really wasn't. And I wasn't surprised to know that he was the Thin Man because he's got different hats. And one of the hats include what the Thin Man looks like he wears. So they were already telling us what was going on. And in addition to that, most of those hats have a purpose. Like, there's this mail room that I saw someone put the mailman hat on, and there was like a long hand that came out of the mailbox and took the package that he had with the eye on it. What on earth? I think that's cool. Do more of that, please. Like, have your stuff actually mean something. Like, aesthetically, I really don't want to be taken out of the story too much with different skins. Like having him look like a sailor or something that's just out of place is real strange. But since it's such a small, ominous, gray game, I don't think that the hats make much of a difference, especially since you have the option not to use them. And you can change them at any time during the game. I think it was cool to add that whole thing where you have to wear certain hats to get certain achievements. But the biggest theory I have takes place with the Thin Man. But let me talk about Mono. And Mono, eventually at the end, spoiler, he's the Thin Man, supposedly. And he's alone. He was left by 6. And her name is 6, right? I think they had to do that. They did the first one, Mono, and the last one, 6. Isn't that interesting? So my hypothesis is the next person we're going to be introduced to is Duet, or the second one. the second child, which I do believe will be a girl. There's Trisilla, that can also be a girl, which 3. Quaid would be maybe the lollipop boy from the comics. I haven't read them, but I've seen people on YouTube looking at them. And I do believe that the lollipop boy is the 4th one. I really don't know why I feel he's the 4th one. But I think they were in line or something, and he might be, I don't know, he might be 4 or 5. But the next one would be Quinn or Quentin for 5. And we already know who 6 is. And I do believe Quentin was the boy that was attached to the chess piece. But my last hypothesis I would like to talk about really includes Mono. So we eventually know about how Mono's life turns out. He becomes the Thin Man. But that's over years. It may not be years the way we think of years, but it's long enough for Mono to have been born again. So, because he doesn't turn to ash, he doesn't die. He doesn't die of old age. He just gets to that age, and then he gets released by Mono. So he eventually has to be released again. But what I believe is each child, there's 6 children in total because we know about 6. I do believe that every child is their worst nightmare. And that's why it's called Little Nightmares. So Mono's worst nightmare is the Thin Man and being alone. 6's worst nightmare we have yet to see. Because she's not the lady. The lady wasn't sucking people's life. She was turning the children into gnomes. So we have to assume that the lady is very compassionate. She didn't kill him. So I think that she wanted them to be something that was less threatening. Maybe something that she knew the people wouldn't eat because it's not meat. It's like vegetable maybe or like something. But I do believe one of the children that we will see in future games or this DLC that's coming out will be the lady. She will eventually be the lady, and we're going to know she is because that's her worst nightmare. I think each kid, they have to defeat their worst nightmare or become their worst nightmare. And I think 6 out of all of them, she's the worst. And not the worst as in, horrible, like everyone else is treating 6 just because she dropped someone that you don't even know. You know 6 longer than you know Mono, so why are y'all like tripping on something? You should have known that she survives because this is a prequel. And my last thing I'm going to say about this is Little Nightmares 2 is a prequel to Little Nightmares. And people said, it's a paradox. I do believe it's a paradox. Some of my theories can't exist within a paradox. But I believe that this particular game is in a paradox. And Little Nightmares 2, I don't think it's Little Nightmares 2. I think we're saying it wrong. I think they're saying it wrong. If you notice the 2, it looks like a tower. I think Little Nightmares 3 is going to look like something else that relates to that game. I don't think it's the Roman numerals. I do believe they did that purposefully because the 2 in Roman numerals looks like a straight up tower. They did that purposefully. I really don't think that they meant this to be 2. I think 3 will have to do with the 3rd child or maybe the 2nd child that we're going to talk about. I do believe the 2nd child is going to be in the DLC and the 3rd child will be in the 3rd game. I believe. But that's just me. That's just me. Mono wasn't in the 1st game, but I do believe this is the 1st game. I think Little Nightmares is the 2nd because at the end, she gets hungry and she wants to feast and she sees a pamphlet for the maw. And that's mostly all I have to say about this. I don't think I intend to play the games. I'll just watch someone else play it because I'm saving my money for Resident Evil 8 or Village. They don't want us to call it 8. Hope you guys enjoyed this. It was just a quick synopsis, rundown, and some theories throughout. I have a lot of content on my channel. I'm happy to say that I have 39 followers as of right now. I started with like 19 a little bit ago, and it's been pretty good. If you enjoy games, I love to game. I stream on Twitch. It's down in the description. Like, comment, subscribe. Like, let's have a conversation. What theories do you think were right that I said? What do you think were wrong? Do you think they could be tweaked? Do you think I'm missing something? If you like Resident Evil, I've got tons of content about that. If you like Kingdom Hearts or like to hate on Kingdom Hearts, I do too. I've got a lot of content on that. If you're interested in anime, there's quite a few anime videos I've made. Hope you enjoyed. I think the next video, I have no idea what I'm going to make. I have no idea. No clue. So tune in.